Hi folks, the following video has been produced solely by myself, no production team and no expensive equipment, studio or post-production. I want to share with you my tips and tricks that I've gained on my journey over the past 12 months in producing these videos. You may not have all the tools, although in many instances it's the principle that really is important. So go ahead, please be creative. Later, I'll be demonstrating how with merely a phone, a notebook, you can also produce great videos. I hope this assists in your production of your own presentation. You will not need everything that I display in this presentation at MongoDB.live, as video is not required for this year's conference. I hope you find it informative and it encourages you to use these tips and techniques moving forward beyond MongoDB.live. Watching the video will also help you better understand the complete process and therefore better support the MongoDB production team. Under extraordinary circumstances, it is up to each and every one of us to make this the best event possible. I hope you can all learn something and therefore helps you produce a better presentation. The MongoDB team is here to help. Please call on them and leverage the enormous effort being applied. We owe it to the MongoDB family. This is an exciting opportunity. Videos have a number of advantages over live presentations. They can be produced to be catchy, edited to increase information density, accuracy, and then distributed to a far greater audience. With your presentation in hand, pointers and assistance from Rhonda, your speaker coach, and the rest of the MongoDB team, and the microphone that is now being dispatched, you'll be ready to knock it out of the park. Let me take up my chair, notebook, and let's get started. Okay, so let's quickly look at what I'll be covering. Firstly, a very quick background on who I am and Formbird. Then we'll look at what is important in producing a video or multimedia presentation like this. The equipment I'm using, what I've landed on, what has worked, and in some cases what hasn't worked. The actual process of the production or production process, then the post-production, putting it all together, audio, video, presentations. Finally, a wrap up with examples so you get a good feel of what the final products look like. Hi, I'm Mark Hosking, CEO and founder of Formbird, a low-code application development platform that complements MongoDB, making app development as easy as MongoDB makes data storage. The two products working hand in hand, delivering powerful enterprise applications in a fraction of the time with continuous flexibility. I hope you'll swing back to my conference presentation to learn more. Rest assured, I have no writing, acting, production, or any other video skills. I'm a founder, software engineer, and geek who spends much of his time up to his neck in MongoDB, Kubernetes, and dreaming up new capabilities for our Formbird R&D team, and then working with our customers, consultants, and partners in implementing the technology. My video production journey started 12 months ago, and to date, I've only produced some 10 videos, so don't think I've had years of experience and training. If I can do it, anyone can. With a primary objective to be able to create these videos quickly and efficiently. As an engineer, I pulled the problem apart, broke it into manageable units, and put what I could together. My objective was to achieve the largest possible bang for buck in terms of equipment, time, and final result. These were my objectives and success criteria. Firstly, I had to leverage the minimum amount of equipment. Secondly, I had to be able to create these videos single-handed. That was all the way through from creation, production, post-production, and publish. Quick production time is important. I didn't want it to take days, months, or weeks in order to get these out. And of course, look as professional as I possibly could within those constraints, taking everything from above and really leveraging it to produce the best possible result. These are my learnings. Please use what you can. Don't be too harsh. My surname is not Spielberg, Pitt, Scorsese. I hope it helps and look forward to talking to many of you through this journey. What is actually important? when producing a video or multimedia presentation. Much of my research was actually done with my resident consultant. Yes, that's my 17-year-old son, a YouTube video geek, spent more hours on YouTube than anything else. After spending lots of time on YouTube myself and investigating and looking at what was available and what actually made sense, I realized that it quickly came to me that there was really only three important things. One is content. Two is content. And three is content. Content is by far the most important element of any video or multimedia presentation. What you'll find is you'll probably find yourself on YouTube looking at videos with terrible quality all around, but if that content is actually meeting your requirements, whether it be repairing something, how to do something, or funniest video, you actually really are very forgiving on both the audio and the video, and the quality of the production. But content is absolutely king. So just keep that in mind when you're producing your presentation. Naturally, after content comes audio and then video. People can be very tolerant of poor video, but poor audio, we're not terribly tolerant. And this is one reason why we're sending out you a mic to use. Poor audio is just not acceptable. And what you'll find is that people quickly shut off when there is poor audio, either difficult to listen to, poor quality, or a large background noise. So it's really important that your recordings are the best you can be on audio. This is why radio still survives. You can see that with radio, you don't actually need video to actually engage with the content. So definitely content first, audio, and then video. Just by way of background, in all my research, you will find that YouTube has about 80 years of videos uploaded to YouTube every day. One of my reasonings of actually going into producing these videos was that, hey, if there's 80 years of video, then a few of my videos are not going to hurt the world. So be brave, be happy to put them up. What I've actually found is that the videos are a very powerful way of transmitting a message. Don't expect them to be YouTube hits. A couple of hundred hits is a success in my book. It's really about who actually gets to view it. We use it extensively for our marketing and presentations, and it reduces the workload on presenting our product and presenting our technology. It lets organizations share that information. So we're very often doing very short little videos that cover product demonstrations or even specific demonstrations to customers. So yes, don't believe that your upload will become a hit. I've seen so many corporate videos where thousands of dollars have been spent and the return is no better than my couple of hundred hits. So just go for it. Honestly, just go for it. So let's look at equipment. I've purchased a number, or almost all my gear on eBay. I've tried to keep the spend right down. I did a reasonable amount of research on every one item. I really broke it down, as I said, into individual problems. So let me just run you through what I now would consider the absolute minimum. I will give you some presentation or demonstrations on what can be achieved with that minimum, and it's quite surprising what you can achieve. So let me just start. So firstly, realistically, you really need a notebook, because a lot of this production is really requiring a notebook, of course. And so both the presentation, software to edit and do your post-production work. A mobile phone is an interesting tool. Often today, mobile phones have very good video. So combining the video of a mobile phone and an external mic can actually produce surprisingly good results. Then some sort of software. I'll run you through later what I use, but again, it's not an endorsement for any particular piece of software. There's lots out there. Don't hang me on what I've selected. I find it very useful and very powerful. When you then build up beyond that, certainly the first purchase would be a microphone. Now, MongoDB is sending out your microphone, so that's really the critical path or critical item that I'd say is essential. Poor audio, as I've said, is really unforgiving. It's very unforgivable, and people just don't tolerate it. very well. The next step up is really a decent camera, and a camera. It's just as important to have a lens to match the camera. Today, many of the cameras way outperform your requirements, and again, this is where potentially a phone can really be a good substitute for that. So it's really, again, only if you're stepping up beyond basic production purposes. Lighting is reasonably important. I have a number of lights, and I'll run you through that. But ensuring that there is decent lighting if you're producing video is critical. These productions that you're seeing now use a green screen, chroma key against those green screens, and I'll have a quick chat about that. So let's just take a tour. I'll run you actually through and use, in this case, I'll switch to a phone. I'll do a mobile phone video and produce it against that. So let's just have a look at the individual items. So let me run you through my little production room. This is an office as well as a production room. Very, very simple, very, very basic. So the back wall has just recently been painted green for the chroma key, green screen. You can purchase, and I previously were utilising a green cloth just purchased off eBay against 2 tripods. That worked quite effectively, and it does work well. It gives portability. The only issue is that it's very difficult to maintain total flatness, which then causes some shadow issues around lighting. So you can end up with creases and lighting issues of running against that. So I found that the painted, very low sheen wall is very effective. I do have here actually quite a nice little purchase from eBay, which is a little teleprompter. It actually simply is a housing. It contains the camera, provides a dark enclosure for the camera with a reflective surface that the camera looks through. The camera I'm utilising is a D8 Canon. The lens is probably the most important thing, which is quite a large aperture, 24 to 70 millimeters. Things I like about this camera is the reversible touchscreen, which is quite useful certainly when I'm not using teleprompter. The autofocus is handy. The teleprompter itself is quite cute. It works by just simply downloading a $10 little application. You can see that what it does is it reverses the language, so inverts it, inverts the text. You can set a speed, you can start and stop it, you can replay it. When you put it up against or inside the prompter, it simply lets the camera shoot through it. And then when you sit down or look at it directly, you then see that the English is all inverted around the right way. I actually use just a little Bluetooth mouse to then control it. So as I'm working remotely, I can actually control that text using that teleprompter. I don't always use a teleprompter. I'm not using a teleprompter now, as you can see. So I try and ad-lib as much as I can. Using a teleprompter can be quite consuming and time-consuming doing the text. But if, for instance, the stand-up section of the first part of this video, I struggle to get it right without putting it up on text and leveraging the teleprompter. The Canon, and I suppose a lot of the new cameras today have remote control through Wi-Fi. So this is also incredibly handy in the sense that I can start and stop the camera remotely. Very useful again for trying to operate alone. It also ensures that I'm in focus. Absolutely critical. You don't want to spend 10 minutes doing a production videoing and just to discover that it was either all out of focus or you didn't turn on record or something like that. Now back to the most important thing, audio. There's a Blue Yeti. It's a very cost-effective, very popular in this land of video production, YouTubing. I found a very good mic. I do have a little Samsung. It also is actually quite effective. It's probably not that far behind the Blue Yeti. I don't use it extensively. I sort of prefer the Blue Yeti, but again, the Samsung's quite a portable little device, very handy. I did try using a mic mounted on on top of the video camera, which has got an advantage in the sense that it synchronizes the audio with the video when you're using the camera. It worked relatively well. It's okay. The issue I found was if you try and extend it out, this becomes a big area and picks up, probably just need a better earthed cable, but it would pick up halogen lights or neon lights and create a lot of noise into it, so not terribly effective. Lighting is very important. As I said, particularly if you're creating video, these lights are LED. I did try light boxes. The problem with the light box I found was that you couldn't vary the intensity. So particularly working in a small space, it became very difficult to have effective lighting. These lights I can vary both the heat and the intensity of both. They've got arrays of LEDs. Quite effective devices. I have two of those, and at this moment I'm backlighting the green screen. And that's essentially it. Software-wise, I've been using ScreenFlow, which is a Mac OS X product. I found that very effective and very easy to use. It's sort of what I've got used to now. Lets me produce stuff very quickly. I'll demonstrate that a little bit later as we go into the post-production side. Okay, for the next little section, I'm going to actually use my phone as the camera. I'm going to place it up against the notebook. There's a couple of advantages with that, in fact. It'll look as though you're looking directly into the camera more. You can actually use the screen of the notebook as a teleprompter. You'll see that it's actually not a bad effect. So let me just put that up against the camera, against that point, and I'll show you what it's like. This is now using my phone as the camera. It is sitting against the screen of the notebook and directing towards me. It's not a bad camera whatsoever. Works quite effectively. I'm using the Blue Yeti as the mic. I synchronize it, and I'll discuss this later, with a clap that synchronizes my mic with the audio of the video. So just a few things on other equipment that I'd probably look at would be potentially a lapel mic would be a useful addition. Some soundproofing in the room, or at least some more soft furnishings to deaden the echo. When you're doing your audio for MongoDB.live, please don't do it in a hallway or in a small enclosed space. Do a test run and just see what the echo is like, and you'll really understand where bad audio is from. So let's move on now, and we'll move on to the actual production side of it all. Production. So now we're heading to the heart of what we need to achieve. What is it that you must consider in the production process? Well, the first is the content, and that is your slides. You need to figure out how you're going to tell your story. How do you get people's interest within the first couple of seconds, and then how do you keep that flow? How do you make sure that you're delivering enough information that's high enough density to keep people's attention? You also need to make sure that you don't overload with written text. It's like any stand-up presentation, video presentation. Try and keep the words at a minimum. Use as many graphics as possible, and keep the audience entertained. You're really entertaining first and providing information second. So a couple of points on slide layout. If you are performing a video or adding video to it, just think about where you're going to place yourself on that video. I've got a preference that I put my data or information and slide information on the left, and my body, if you like, or the actual presentation, the human on the right side of the screen. I think that works quite well in the sense that people typically read left to right, but I think it really comes down to what you're trying to focus on, the highest, or what you consider the most important element of what's being presented. If you watch a lot of TV, certainly in the English world, people look left to right. So often the main subject or main topic will be at the left, and the secondary information to the right. So just keep that in mind. It really is personal preference. It's a designer issue. I'm certainly no designer, but just consider where you might be placing and the sizing of the information and the sizing of any video. Dress. So let me show you a couple of variations and what I think about dress. Dress or costume is an interesting topic. I actually tried a number of items before I landed on what I'm currently wearing. I think it really needs to be a reflection of your personality, the sort of information you're presenting. It's like any TV or any production. It's a costume. It'll portray an image or a sense to the audience. Let me run you through a few. Here I am without a jacket. I found that without a jacket, it was very hard to have nice square shoulders, so a jacket sort of hides a bit of bad posture. A plain black t-shirt, perhaps the Mark Zuckerberg look. Old green overalls. What you'll notice about these is that they'll be disappearing a little bit with the chroma key, so you've got to consider that as well. If you're chroma keying, you can actually chroma key with a software against any color. The choice of green is simply that you can usually avoid green. So chroma key removes that particular color out of the picture and makes it transparent. So you can actually use it to good effect, but you must consider what you are wearing. So blue is often a good complement or opposite, I suppose, on the light spectrum to green, but you can actually choose any color for your chroma keying. So this is a green suit, a green Boilermaker suit. So just consider a couple of dimensions of what you are wearing. And corporate t-shirt with logo. So there's a decent variation on what can be worn. You'll see, you'll feel that it provides a different sensation or stimulation to the viewer, like any dress up. It really portrays, you need to really reflect what you're trying to portray within that video, either both in terms of your personality, the position that you're trying to present, and unfortunately we all prejudge and we all make assessments based on look. An unfortunate trait of humans, but a very natural one. So just consider what you're wearing if you are doing a video. It took me quite a few days to test case what I would wear, whether it be coloured, checkered, blue, red, jacket, no jacket, tie, no tie. It just needs to fit with what you're trying to present, the information you're trying to present. Just make sure it doesn't conflict, and if it does, that you're actually using it to effect. Let me switch back and continue on. So this is my final landing. Was a business shirt opened without a tie, blue in colour, which worked well with the chroma keying, with a jacket, kept my shoulders nice and straight, provided a professional, relaxed look. So that was my decision and what I've landed on. Go for it. You really need to just consider what you're trying to present and how you're trying to present, and the image that unfortunately your audience is going to place based on that look. Location is very important. You need to consider the noise that's around, how much echo, as I said, for your audio, where you can place mics. Try and keep them as close as practical, yet far enough to not be disturbed or be overdriven. Constant lighting. If you're doing video, it's handy to have somewhere that you know that by artificial lighting you can actually recreate the same conditions repeatedly, particularly if you're shooting over a number of days, as this can cause problems if you've got shadows or changing sun or what have you, and you're trying to cut and paste a scene together or a whole sequence together. It becomes very disjointed, and that's another reason why I keep these clothes, if you like, the jacket and shirt at the office, or in my office for shooting. It's my wardrobe. So the location just needs to be considered. Background noise, air conditioning units, anything around. The best thing to do is just take some shots, take some recordings, play it back, rehearse a couple of times, and just be comfortable that you understand what your environment is dictating in terms of your production. So in terms of sound, again, placement of mic is important, fairly close. Don't go to a location that is too enclosed. That's the biggest issue. Lots of hard walls. I'm a little bit. I'm in that sort of location here. That's again why I'd like to have more soft furnishings and or soundproofing on the walls. But that can be compensated by having the mic relatively close and not talking too loud. In fact, just keeping your volume down and as consistent as possible. That'll help. Lighting, really play around with that. I've just noticed in this video as I've been doing it that for the first time I've been using my overhead neon lights, which is causing a little bit of flaring on my forehead, for instance. Historically or in the past I've actually just used my LED lights and probably better lit my head and my face, but once you start on these journeys and once you start a video, you really need to sort of continue, unfortunately, and just grin and bear with what you've sort of started with, unless you're happy to go back and redo the whole thing. Okay, so once you've started shooting, and if you are using an external camera, you really need to synchronize the audio with the video. This is done simply by a clap. That is by far the easiest. On the movie sets, you would have seen the clapper boards, which also have cut names and numbers, or numbers for the date and shootings and all the rest of it, details, so that when you're splicing up the audio together and the video together, it becomes very obvious. But a simple clap, and I'll show you that in the post-production, is absolutely essential. Trying to synchronize video with audio without that is nigh impossible. You'll end up with lip sync out of sync, which is quite disturbing. It really is essential that you clap at some point during that video. It really doesn't matter actually when you do it, because so long as you've got the two recordings, it can even be at the end. You just need to at some point have those aligned in your editing software. Once they're aligned, then you can cut and paste and move them around, because the audio will be in sync with the video. Continuous shooting. This is important. When I first started, I'd be forever turning things off and starting them again and turning them off and starting them again. It's actually incredibly easy. Memory is cheap. All of our tools are digital, so just let it run. You can just let it run for hours if it needs be. That last shooting I just did of the with the clothes changing, I just left it run, walked out, changed, walked back, took up position, then continued on, walked out. So just continuous shooting. But in doing the continuous shooting, please leave gaps. Don't try and rush between. If you're doing your own post-production work, you'll quickly discover that rushing between items is your enemy. If you don't leave the gaps, it makes it very difficult to edit. You really need to leave gaps, both from a sense of the video and the audio. So if you make a mistake, don't quickly rush to correct it. Just pause. Just wait a few seconds. It becomes then, and particularly if you can come back to a position if you're doing video, makes it very easy to then re-splice that in. If you come back to a standard position and pause sufficiently, it makes it very easy to cut and paste. And it's the same for the audio. Leave gaps, say what happened, and then just accept that that'll be cut and paste out. As I was saying, don't race. Racing particularly will lead to no gaps. Racing will be unnatural. So try not to race, just relax, chat, but keep up obviously a pace enough to keep people entertained. I haven't quite mastered this one, but relax. Perhaps my objective of doing it alone was a point that I didn't need an audience to help. So particularly if you are doing it on your own, which most of you will be, the advantage of doing it alone is that you can relax and you can repeat and you can leave gaps and you can take as long as you like. And again, cut and paste is your friend. So just try and relax, produce it, let it flow, and don't worry about the odd mistake. We are human. I've tried very hard, for instance, to get rid of my ums and ahs and you knows and all that. It's not easy at times, and sometimes I'll pull up a fairly funny face that reflects that attempt to reduce those bad habits that we all have. Right. So I thought, in order to demonstrate both the production and then the post-production side, is that we would produce a very short little demonstration of Formbird. So this is doing my head in a little bit, trying to do a production of a production and show you the post-production all in one go, but let's just see how we go. So I've set myself up. The microphone is set in position. I've just started the video recording. I usually start the ScreenFlow recording. The ScreenFlow is recording the screen and the audio. Kick off the external video. In this case, it's the Canon camera. I also have my phone over my shoulder just to, and you'll see that on the screen here, showing what's going on. So a couple of little hints here. Firstly, the clap to synchronize. Okay, that'll synchronize, and you might do it a second time or something. If you're not happy with the first, it doesn't matter. Just keep shooting. I then have, typically my desktop is almost ready to go. I will then making sure, for instance, that the resolution of the screen, which is a handy hint, is set at 1080p, so 1920 by 1080, given that that's the resolution I wish to publish in. I'll then go full screen. Then I'd launch into the actual presentation, again starting with a pregnant pause and then launching into it. Hi, I'd like to demonstrate now Formbird. I'll quickly log in. I'll create a very basic form using Formbird technology. Formbird leverages MongoDB as its back end, leveraging the document model extensively. So let me just log in quickly to Formbird. And what we'll do is we'll quickly create a very basic form. So a Formbird form consists of, or is built on, a Formbird template. A basic template is the construct is a document, a MongoDB document. What I'll do is I'll cheat here and I will grab a basic contact form. So in this example, we're going to create a very simple contact. Cut and paste is my friend. Let me just paste that in. So here we have a definition of a Formbird template, which then consists of components. That template will then render a form. Each component is a functional element. You can define and build your own components. They are web components. Formbird is a web app. It follows the Google progressive design. It is therefore responsive, runs on all devices. You'll see that it accepts phone, which will operate as a phone on a phone device. Upload, which lets you upload. We have many components, and you can build your own components. On saving the template, the components to find that form, it then provides me with a fully functioning form. On saving, I've now created a template which defined the form. I've now entered data. That the actual form is fully functioning at this point. It'll operate across a phone, a tablet, and whatever other device you wish to run. So that is a very quick demonstration of what Formbird can do. It's only the scratch of the surface, but that is the basics of Formbird. The ability to rapidly build forms, edit those forms, and move them into an enterprise solution. So let's now continue on and look at the completion of how I produce the rest of this video or this demonstration. So what I'll do now is we will stop the camera, so the camera will stop shooting, and we'll move to post-production of that very simple little demonstration. Let's now perform the post-production on that video I just filmed and recorded. So we have the actual external file sitting here. This is taken from the Canon camera. I'll now pull it into, in this case, ScreenFlow. I have the recordings from ScreenFlow, which was the screen recordings, and the Blue Yeti microphone recording. So I'm going to bring that down onto the timeline. So I have the screen recording, which I keep in a one timeline. I'll pull in the audio, and I'll then pull in the video. What we do now is the first thing to do is to actually to look at the synchronization of the voice with the video. So we're looking here for that clap position, and we're also looking for the sound of that clap. So you can see it's slightly out of sync there at the moment. So what we'll do is we will zoom in on that. You'll see that there's the peaking of that clap. We'll then look for the clap up the top. We'll just make sure we've got the two of them there. Once that's looks good, we just wind it back simply. Okay. That'll synchronize, and you might do it a second time or something if you're not happy with the first. It doesn't matter. We now have it synchronized, so let's now start cutting and pasting and splitting it. So let's go back and have a look at the start of that production. So I thought in order to demonstrate both the production and then the... So let's get rid of any excess. So I might cut that back to, say, that beginning there. I can simply cut out those elements. I'll then move and join that. That attempt to reduce those bad habits that we all have. Right. So I thought in order to demonstrate both the production and then the post-production side, so then we can continue through and simply confirm and cut and paste and move things around. If I'm not happy with any element or any pauses or any time frames, I can very quickly remove that. So let me have a look at the end here. So that looks like an appropriate spot to cut the end off. So I'll remove that. And then in fact I am joining the post-production, or the post-production that I am now presenting now, at the end of it. And I'll continue on to edit that until I'm happy with the entire flow of it. Once that's completed, I can then publish that to a file and review the entire construct. Okay, I think the video's been long enough. What I'd like to do is just wrap up. So let's just quickly wrap up what's been covered and what the next steps are for you. Firstly, don't stress. It really isn't that hard. It's a matter of just getting onto the mic, doing your recordings. There's some great cheap software out there for editing audio. That can be very helpful. You can actually very quickly assemble your own recordings, not relying on the editing staff at MongoDB. So go for it, record, put a lot of pregnant pauses in there. Don't be afraid of recording the beginning at the end. You'll find that as you're recording, particularly if you're running the recording, you can quickly go back and re-record. And in many times have I recorded an entire presentation and then found myself re-recording the beginning once I knew the ending. Do your best. Practice makes perfect. Break it down, do the presentation, get the slides done, then practice what you're going to present at each one, put the notes down, then actually just go out and recording. Recorded is far easier than stand up. You have that chance of editing, you've got the chance of actually increasing the density. You don't need to do everything at once. You can do the presentation, record that, record the audio, and record any presentation of software, so screen grabs and screen presentations. So practice each, and as I said, the real advantage is the fact that you can actually pull it all together in separate units. In the end, just go for it. Just go and do it. Often I have writer's block on this, and it often turns out a lot easier than what I first thought it would be. It's a matter of doing it. Once you've done it once, twice, 3 times, it'll be very natural and quite easy. What I'd like to end with is a video I came across a couple of weeks ago. Bit of a hero now for me is Andrew Cuomo. But what I'd like you to just take note in this video is firstly the style and the simplicity of the recording in itself, the fact that it really has a single camera shot, and that the presentation is actually driven by himself. You'll notice that in his hand he has a clicker that is simply changing the presentation slides. I'd also like to just comment that he is actually, in this case, put himself on the left, which I think is more dominant. I suppose one small criticism I would have of the presentation is that he doesn't step through the information as points, so you find yourself having to read the entire slide to correlate to the voice. But other than that, it's a very gripping presentations. He is emotional. The content is fantastic, yet the production and the assembly of it is actually relatively simple. So just take a view of this in context of everything I've been talking about, the tips and points, and that'll help you understand what makes a good presentation, because I think this is probably one of the greatest presentations that is very low production or very low post-production work has been performed on it.
Let me take you through some facts today, because we have some new facts, changes in circumstances that are not encouraging, and I want to make sure people understand them and we react accordingly. The increase in the number of cases continues unabated. As a matter of fact, the rate of increase has gone up.
Moving forward over the next coming weeks, before the submission of your presentation, reach out to Rhonda and the MongoDB team, your presentation coach. Bit of R&D, you could jump onto YouTube and have a look at other presentations and styles and what you feel it works. It really does come down to a little bit of analysis, a little bit of investigation, and a lot of practice. So I hope that this was of value, a value add to the MongoDB.live conference. I look forward to seeing a lot of the presentations, as many as I can possibly see. I hope that you swing by and see my own, the Formbird and our Formbird technology as we release it out to the market. And good luck and great work.